What is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new horror movie titled Barbarian. So I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about this movie other than a couple of actors who are in it, as well as the director, and I heard some good things about it online. And I think I saw like a couple clips on like TikTok or Twitter a couple months back or something like that, but I didn't see the full trailer. And I would say I recommend going into this movie without seeing any trailers. I recommend seeing it without knowing anything about this movie, because that is definitely one of those types of movies where you really just don't want to know much about it. I'm going to try to do a non-spoiler review segment here, and I'm going to do spoilers right after, because this is one of those movies where it's really hard to talk about it without talking about spoilers, because a lot of things happen that are very unexpected, which I love those types of movies. My favorite movie from last year, or favorite horror movie from last year, was Malignant. And that was definitely one of those movies where I talked about it in my reaction, because I did a whole reaction to that movie, which, again, loved that movie. But I talked about in the video that it's one of those movies that's really not easy to talk about without going into spoilers. Like, everybody always asks me, you know, what's a good horror movie from the past couple of years? I always bring up Malignant, and I can't really tell them what it's about. They ask me, like, okay, what type of movie is it? I don't really know how to explain it, because when I start explaining it, you're going to start to give some stuff away about the plot. Same thing goes for this movie. It is really difficult to talk about this movie without going into spoilers, but I'm going to try my best anyways. We'll go through the positives, negatives, and then we'll talk about spoilers and give it a rating. So for the positives, first thing I want to say is this movie is very well directed. It has a directing style that is very unique, very, very different. The director for this movie, his name is Zach Creggers. I haven't seen any of his other work. I don't think his other work is that popular, so it is definitely a very new director, but he did a fantastic job in this movie. The directing really felt like I was watching a Sam Raimi movie at a lot of points. Like, he does a lot of those Sam Raimi-esque shots where they're like, you know, zooming in on the face and then like kind of zooms back fast, like all those types of shots where it's a lot of just up close things and then far away at like suddenly, and a lot of weird movements with the camera. But I think they're very interesting movements, and they make for a very engaging like action scenes. They make for very engaging horror tension scenes where they build a lot of tension using the camera in interesting ways. I think James Wan is another great director who's really fantastic at doing that, but this is definitely more in the Sam Raimi style of directing, which I think works perfectly with this style of film. It also kind of feels in some way like a Wes Craven movie, but not really in terms of the directing, but more so in terms of the story. Now, Wes Craven doesn't always, you know, write the plots, the scripts of all his movies, but it does definitely feel like it's one of those movies, like almost similar to like Red Eye, for example, where you have the story start off with a character, a female character talking to a male character, and you kind of don't necessarily know what to feel about this guy at first, because he seems a little off, but you're not too sure. And the first bit of this film, you are kind of in that position of, should she trust this guy or not? Is this guy good? Is he bad? You can't really tell. And she's put in a difficult situation here because she shows up to this Airbnb and this guy's already there, so she's kind of confused, but he's like, oh, I already made the appointment here, and then I guess they just both did at the same time, and it just didn't, you know, go through or something, so they just both ended up there at the same time. And the way they build up tension in the first act of this movie with whether or not this guy is going to cause problems, whether he's a psycho killer, like, we don't really know what he is, and it's really building up a lot of tension behind that. There's a lot of scenes where, you know, she's just like walking down the hallway and you just see him like sitting on a table drinking wine, and he has like two glasses out. It's such like a harmless thing, but it just looks so creepy the way they film it, and especially the way Bill Skarsgård, I can never say his damn last name, Skarsgård, I think I got it. The way he acts this role, his character's name is Keith, is just incredible. That creepy feel that he has that you just don't know. For a certain bit of this movie, I was really just not sure what to think of this character. Now, the main character's name is Tess. She is played by Georgina Campbell, actress I've never seen before. I've never seen her work before, but she did a fantastic job in this movie as well. This is definitely one of the best final girls I've seen in a movie in quite some time. So that is a, you know, really good thing about this movie. And also Justin Long is in this movie. He plays a character named AJ, and his character was pretty funny. I would say he's probably the funniest character in the movie. He's quite a piece of shit in the movie, but it makes him kind of funny in a lot of different ways. And I actually really like his inclusion in the movie for the most part. Yeah, that's a lot of the positives I can say about this movie. The tension is really, really solid. The classic horror feel it has. There's a lot of creepy things about this Airbnb, and it just really has a lot of solid building up of tension, leading to things that, in my opinion, are pretty satisfying and pays off pretty damn well. And even just those three characters I mentioned, or like the main three characters of the movie, they are characterized very well. You understand them very well. You know what type of people they are very well just by how the movie progresses the story. And they're not like one-note characters where like, okay, this character is just, you know, this type of stereotype and that's it. No, they actually do a pretty good job of making them quite complex in a bunch of different ways. So I think they're all very well developed characters, and I absolutely love how that was written in this film. Now I'm gonna get into the negatives. There's definitely more good things to say about this movie, but I just can't do it until I get to the spoiler section. So for negatives, first thing I gotta say, which is very common with a lot of horror movies, I don't get why so many horror movies do this so often. It makes sense in some ways, but in other ways, it just kind of bothers me. So this is characters making dumb decisions. We see that all the time in horror movies. You know, a lot of people think it's the only way they can get certain characters into certain situations, but I think there's other ways to do it. There's definitely other ways they could have filmed a lot of these scenes without making characters do things that I just don't believe that character would do in that moment. Now, there's a couple of things where it's like, okay, that character is kind of dumb, so I can see why they would do this. Like, for example, Justin Long's character, he does a lot of dumb things in this movie, but the character himself is pretty dumb for a lot of it. So I kind of buy his stupidity in a lot of the scenes. But even like Tess makes a couple dumb decisions, and I just don't get why she would do that in that situation or what their thought process was there. Now, of course, when you're in a scary situation, you know, I can't really describe what the scary situation is just yet, but the scary situation these characters are in, you can't really put yourself in their shoes because you're not actually in that situation itself. You're sitting comfortably in a theater watching the movie. Obviously, your mindset's going to be a lot better than those characters' mindsets, but I still feel like there's better ways to write it than just for them to make really dumb decisions that just kind of bother the audience. But I don't think it's a big negative because, like I said, it does kind of make sense in some ways because, of course, when you're in that situation, you're not going to be thinking straight. I get it. Another thing I got to say about this movie that I would consider a negative, although it's not really a big negative, this movie goes batshit crazy. Like, this is a crazy movie, which I love, but I feel like it could have gone further. I feel like there was a certain point where I was hoping it was just going to get crazier and crazier, but it just kind of ended up stopping the craziness, and then it kind of just stayed, I would say, same level of craziness for the rest of the film. And I kind of wish it just kept going up. Like, I'm going to compare it to Malignant again because I just absolutely love that movie. That movie is definitely the definition of getting crazier and crazier. To me, the building up of everything happening in that film, it just gets weirder and crazier, and just the whole film. There's never a point where I feel like it's just like the craziness is done, no more. This movie, though, I feel like there is a certain point where it's like there's not much beyond what happens here. I was expecting more. I was expecting something else to happen. I was expecting there to be something crazy revealed beyond what was already revealed, but then it just kind of stops, and the rest of the film is just kind of like, you know, the same sort of horror tension you're used to seeing. And I still loved it, but I just wish it went a little bit further with its concept. I think it could have been a little bit more interesting if it did. And last thing I got to say, although the movie does a great job with its pacing for the most part, and does a great job building up these characters and letting us know who they are, there's a couple moments where I feel like it focuses on a character for a little bit too much, where they're just doing something very simple. Like, for example, and I'm not going to go into specifics, but there's a scene where a character is, you know, grocery shopping for certain things, and you understand the purpose of this scene. I love how this scene's shot, but then there's certain parts where they're just like sitting in a car, and it's just kind of like taking its sweet ass time for it. And I get it's building up tension, but I do feel like they could have saved a lot of the time for this movie for other scenes that were more involved in the horror aspect of it, instead of just scenes of characters doing things to just get from point A to point B. Like, most movies don't do that, where they show you a character going from point A to point B. They kind of just skip the traveling part of it, but this movie shows a lot of the traveling from point A to point B, which, again, sometimes it makes sense, but other times I feel like they could have slimmed it down a little bit, unless they maybe did something with the music. I feel like music's a great way to make those tension building moments a little bit more enjoyable. Like Halloween, for example, is a great example of that, where that movie's a lot of tension building of characters just walking around. A lot of Halloween, talk about the original Halloween, is literally just Laurie Strode walking and Michael's like stalking her. but it works because of the music. It works because of how the creepy music is kind of building up the tension. If it was just showing them doing that, I think it wouldn't be nearly as effective. So I feel like this movie could have done something like that in a lot of these scenes. I maybe liked it a little bit more. I don't know. For a rating, I'm going to give this movie an 8.4 out of 10, which is a damn good rating. I would say it's probably my second favorite horror movie of this year. I don't think I liked it more than The Black Phone, but it's almost as good as The Black Phone. But I like The Black Phone a little bit more. And as for other horror movies, I definitely like this more than Nope. Even though I did like Nope a lot, I definitely like this more than Nope. And I liked it more than Orphan First Kill. So just comparing it to a couple other horror movies that came out this year, I would say this is probably my second favorite that I've seen so far this year. I've definitely seen a bunch of other horror movies as well, but those are the ones that stick out to me as some of the best of this year. Now let's jump into spoilers. Honestly, I just want to say a couple things because why the hell not? They're really all positives. That moment where they revealed the Barbarian, which I'm just going to call her the Barbarian. I know they call her the mother in like IMDb's cast list. She's named the mother because she technically is the mother who, you know, is trying to take, like, that's the whole weird thing about this movie is with this Barbarian character. It's like she's just wants someone to like take care of as their child, and I think that's honestly the whole point of the movie in terms of what they're doing with the different characters that she captures in her little lair. And I absolutely loved the reveal of the Barbarian. Like I literally jumped out of my seat in the theater and like was just so happy that this happened, because I was getting really worried that this movie was going to end up being a very just, you know, stereotypical cliche, like, okay, girl, you know, goes into this house and meets this guy. The guy seems kind of cool at first, but then he gets a little weird, and then he ends up being a psycho killer and traps her and then kills her, or not kills her, but she escapes at the end, and then that's the movie. I've seen so many movies like that. I was like, if this is that type of movie, I'm gonna be disappointed, because I'm kind of just this type of movies I've seen too many times. But then I started feeling like when I started seeing the basement and it opening up to all these different rooms, I loved the reveals of all these different secret rooms. I love movies like that where they have secret rooms that get creepier and creepier as it goes through. And I love the reveal of there being someone down there, because the whole time you're thinking, wait, is this guy in on this thing? Is this his house? And this is his basement, and you have no idea. And Bill Skarsgård does such a great job of just making you not sure. You really aren't. And the whole beginning of the movie, I was like, this guy's definitely weird. But then I started thinking, no, maybe they're going to subvert my expectations. Maybe they're going to do that and make it so it's actually he's not, you know, a weird guy at all. He's just some normal dude who just happened to be at this Airbnb, and he just happens to be kind of awkward. That's why he seemed so weird, because the character definitely was socially awkward. Like, he wasn't great at everything that he was saying to her, and he kept mentioning like, oh, I get it, you know, you might think I'm weird, you know, I understand why you wouldn't want to drink the tea I made, because I might have like poisoned it or something. He keeps bringing stuff like that up to remind the audience that he could be a psycho killer, but he ends up not being one. And I really think that was a great twist, especially because even towards the second before they reveal it, I was honestly thinking to myself, maybe they're going to pull a Scream here on us, and they're going to make us think that our assumption was wrong, but then it actually ends up being what happens. Like, our original assumption is actually what ends up happening. But no, the original assumption, nope, did not happen. There's some weird ass shit going on in the basement, and that reveal of that weird lady coming and just coming at him and smacking his head on the wall, fantastic. And then it just cuts over to a whole new character. I was mind blown at that point, and I was all in for this movie. And the rest of the movie, I really, like I said, I really thoroughly enjoyed. But there's a couple things towards the end that I think I didn't love, like sort of in terms of like character decisions and stuff. Like, why go on top of that water tower? Like, I know they couldn't escape because of the barbed wire, but you could find a better way out than going on top of a water tower where you're just gonna get trapped. Like, you know, you're gonna get cornered up there. I don't know, just a couple things that just, I feel like it just bothers the audience. But I get why, you know, in that situation, you're obviously gonna be very stressed. You're probably not gonna be thinking straight. I kind of can understand that in a way. I do like how there was also the guy involved, and they do a little backstory on him, like a kind of short backstory. It wasn't anything too crazy. I do like learning a little bit about that, and it wasn't like it was spoon-fed to us. They kind of did a lot of subtle ways of revealing that backstory to us. I like that a lot. And like I was saying before in the negatives, I do kind of wish that went even crazier. Like, maybe there was a bigger reveal in those basements. Maybe there was something else down there. Maybe there was, because even the homeless guy, he was kind of saying how, oh, that's not even the worst thing down there. That lady's not even the worst thing down there. Was she referring to the guy? The guy was like sick. He seems like he's probably been sick for a while. I don't think he's done shit for a while. He was probably referring to like all the tapes, obviously, but I thought he was meaning like something that's currently a threat, like something even bigger. Like I thought there was gonna be like a room with like 10 of those women maybe that were all like vicious barbarians or something. I think that would have been a great reveal if that's how it like gets to the climax. Is he keeps going through this place. Justin Long's character keeps going through this place and he finds a room and there's even more of these people instead of just one. I just think that would have been the best way to just make it even crazier and just get to an even wilder point in the film, and it would make it so they didn't have to make the characters make dumb decisions in order for them to be put in harm's way. They would have just been in harm's way because there would be like freaking 10 of these people down there just all kind of all over the place and coming at Justin Long's character. I think that would have made things a little more intense, and you could have it literally be like a escape the house film. I would have loved that, but I think regardless how it was still an incredible movie. I just wish it was like, 10 out of 10 movie, which that's asking for a lot, but obviously that's, just how it is for a lot of movies. So I really loved it. Like I said, love this movie. I highly recommend it. At this point, you probably have already seen it if you're watching the spoiler section, but I will see you on my next one. Thank you for watching. Peace out.